Hello and welcome to Why Things Feel Fucked webinar, all focused on one of the central tools to why things feel fucked, the nervous system app. This is a masterclass on our nervous system. I am so excited to have you all here joining in this conversation. I can't wait to get started and to have you a part of the Why Things Feel Fucked journey. We are going to explore how things unfold in our nervous systems and what we are going to do about it to find calm and connection again. I am so looking forward to this conversation. Let's get stuck in to what it feels like to feel stuck in a fast moving world filled with disconnected systems that are all hammering our brains and bodies, leaving us feeling drenched in fear, incredibly disconnected, and in the end, feeling quite stuck. It's this level of stuck disconnection and fear that I know for me, for many years, I have felt. I've spent a lot of my last 10 years as a psychotherapist unpacking how do we move from stuck to free, from disconnection to even more levels of connection, and from fear to a sense of creativity again. How do we find our way to the sorts of creativity that inspire us to live differently and to find different and new pathways in the world? As an introduction, I'm Andrew Sloan. I am an integrated psychotherapist and leadership coach. I have found my way to writing my first book, Why Things Feel Fucked. It is released on Tuesday next week in Sydney. We've got our big launch party. If you would like to learn more about this book as we travel through this conversation, there's a QR code here. It will also be at the end of our conversation as well. This QR code will go straight to the website where you can pre-order and read more about the book. I can't wait for you to have your hands on the book really soon. Tonight, in our masterclass this evening, we're going to do three things. Two things quite quickly, and we're going to embed and engage in something around our nervous systems for a little bit longer. We're going to speak about the systems of disconnection. It so happens that the world's systems of disconnection have rendered us disconnected ourselves. We're then going to explore the cost of this on our nervous systems and the neuroscience of leading ourselves and others towards even more connection. First, restoring an internal system of connection, and then finding our way to creating connection with each other. Systems of connection, how do we restore them? After we restore our system of connection in ourselves, how do we go and embark on creating systems of connection around us? And for more on that, you will need to pick up the book. I want to take a moment just before we dive in. In the last 6 months, I'm wondering, when have you felt the most free, connected, safe, and grounded? What was happening? Who was around? Where were you in the world? When was it specifically? Do you remember the date, the place, the time? And how did it happen? How did this moment of freedom, connection, safety, and groundedness occur? For me, it was when I was walking in a national park down the south coast. I had just endeavored through a jungly, brambly patch, and I found myself sitting in an open space with reflective water, looking up at the blue sky, hearing the birds, looking at the trees. I felt free. I felt connected. I felt incredibly safe, and I felt grounded. When I ask my clients this question, both my clients in my private practice, but also in the teams that I get to work with, they often say it was when they were last at a resort. They often say it was when they were last in the beach chair at the resort, resting. Often they report it was the last time I was deeply connected with my family at dinner, after a lot of sleep, or like me, when walking in nature. For some of us, it's the moment of calm just after a moment of hustle. It's this feeling of accomplishment. It's this feeling of the calm just after we've achieved great things. This is when we feel most free, connected, and probably with the fuel on board and the perspective to create a lot of creativity in our lives. So why do the most of us feel incredibly stuck and disconnected and drenched in fear right now? How have the last several thousand years of human history created less freedom and more stuck, trapped, disconnected? How have we got into this mess? Why do things feel so fucked right now? It's probably got something to do with the immensity and the complexity of the many systems of disconnection in the world. What we know is that the systems of the world have been born out of three fundamental building blocks or conditions. The first one is chaos. Chaos is the rule of our universe. Complexity and change. These three ingredients are really at the foundations of all of our human experiences. Unfortunately, because of the high levels of complexity, chaos, and change, humankind in our nervous systems have found a way to demonstrating and implementing these three alternate remedies. One, taking force and using force against each other. Two, trying to control these dynamics that feel very uncontrollable. And in the end, leading to domination over others in order to combat these forces of chaos, complexity, and change. It's these three things that we'll notice are naturally born out of fear-based nervous systems, but they also have a really damaging effect on everyone around us. They lead others to fear-based nervous systems as well. So in Why Things Feel Fucked, we call this the Why Things Feel Fucked model. It is how we start to map the complexity of why are we stuck and less free? Why are we really being motivated more by fear than creativity right now and throughout human history? It's probably got something to do with the world systems that are often in their core fed by force, control, and domination. all because of the world's natural chaos, complexity, and change. I think about the first 20 years of my life, and to be blunt, these systems of power over us harmed me greatly. Rules, binaries, shoulds, and musts created an ecosystem around me, at least, that really hammered my capacity to be well connected, but also to have well-being. Force, domination, and control, as we know, is sort of in all of these many systems that wrap around us, these systems of disconnection, these systems that choose domination over sharing power with us. And this is why we call it power over us. The root of our disconnection in many of our Western cultures is colonialism, white supremacy, and violent racism. And in many ways, this is the foundation on how we live our lives that is at the bedrock of a fracture that feeds in and around most of these systems. We might speak about the gender-based system or the environmental injustice that's unfolding in the world. We might talk about governments that choose to harm us through their policies or through their wars. We talk about how all of these many disconnected systems impact our family of origin and our ability to create peace inside of our bodies and in our nervous systems. We know we're in a system of disconnection, or when a system of disconnection is impacting us, when they have hierarchies. Someone's in control. There's a chain of command. This is the boss in a workplace telling you how to do your job versus asking you how you're uniquely going to achieve it. Systems that disconnect us have rigid rules and binaries. It's this or that thinking. This is what a great career is. Becoming a lawyer is the only path to a successful life. This is rigid rules and binaries of gender, the extremes of the masculine and the feminine in gender, not allowing for the rich tapestry in between. We know we've got a problem when we might hear in the same relationship, you are expressing your emotions too much, you are too emotional. At the same time, we might also hear, don't cry, stop crying. And this suppression of emotions is what we find in many of the systems that disconnect us. It is this that actually unplugs us and disconnects us from an inner roadmap of sensation and feelings that actually could guide our way through the chaos instead. We know we're in a systems of disconnection when they are extracting resources. This is, as an idea, like fast fashion, thinking about how they take more than they return back to our ecology. And we know we're in a system of disconnection where there's an emphasis on competition, that hustle culture of getting ahead and winning at all costs. These systems of disconnection, of course, have buffeted all our lives. They've rendered a big impact on our nervous systems and our ability to connect to ourselves. Let's take a moment. How does chaos, complexity, and change, and these forces of disconnection inside of these large systems, maybe it's at work, at home, maybe it's your relationship to the natural environment that has become limited. How does this chaos bubble that we're in affect your day, your relationships, and your life right now? If you're anything like me, I feel this just underneath my skin. It has found its way into my body. This is the frantic scrolling on my phone. This is the tight feeling that I get when I, quote unquote, could or should be relaxing. This is the work calls, texts, messages becoming more important than the intimate relationships I have around me. I wonder how this fast world filled with hustle and demands, without enough connection inside of our big systems that shape our lives, like our work systems, our medical systems, and our political systems. I wonder how this is affecting your day, your relationships, and your entire life right now. People, when I ask this question, and I was with a large team on Monday, and we were all describing what it feels like to not have enough space in our days to unplug, to find a sense of space, finding it really hard to stay connected meaningfully with other people and other humans, that the more digital experiences we have in our days, the less we have access to safe human relationships. This is affecting our sleep. It's rendering us feeling really tired and fatigued, but at the same time, kind of wired. I describe this in the book as having our foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. We're burning a lot of fuel, but we're going nowhere. For many of the people I start who haven't thought about this in their lives yet, they kind of feel stuck in a bit of a loop. It's a bit like Groundhog Day, but it's fully electrified. We know that the science is telling us the same thing. It's not just what we're feeling in our bodies and or what we're seeing in our relationships or in our workplaces. Australians are very stressed. 43% of us said that in a lot of yesterday, they felt stressed, sad, and deeply worried. As our faster future gets faster and we head towards a post-COVID world with artificial intelligence, where are these numbers going to go? In many ways, all of these systems of disconnection and how they disconnect us from our sense of calm are helping us to feel alone. We're in a lot of haze of the craziness of life, but we sort of feel like we're cut off. So how do we get from this chaos or this feeling of chaos to calm? Well, I think we need a map. We're going to be exploring a map that decodes a lot of complexity in the human body. And this is the heart of our masterclass on the nervous system. In your body right now, as you sit there at 6-ish, 7-ish on a Thursday night, or you're listening to this recording, you have a really complex nervous system. There are 100 billion neurons in your head. There's about 40 to 70,000 around your chest or your heart center. And there's 100 million neurons in your guts. These are cells that transmit information from one to the other. It's these neural networks that have become unplugged from each other in many ways by the systems of disconnection around us. It is these neural networks that in a faster future, we might want to connect to find ourselves again and each other again. The complexity of these neural networks are in two simple groups, which you may have heard of before. The sympathetic nervous system is the go mode, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest mode. What we found out about 15 to 20 years ago is that actually the sympathetic nervous system is about 400 million years old. It's the alert, activated, and accelerated. But what we found out about 20 years ago is that the parasympathetic nervous system is in a branch of its own. The first branch is the dorsal vagal complex. Think lizard. Think lizard frozen with its tail dropped off. This is the freeze, shutdown, overload. The yellow and the orange, the sympathetic nervous system, is when the threat is bigger enough for us to flee from or fight and engage. The red is when the threat is bigger than we can comprehend and we have to freeze in place to keep our survival possible. The second branch of the parasympathetic nervous system is about 200 million years old, and this is when animals started to socially connect. The ventral vagal complex is the calm, grounded, but it is the connected territory of our nervous system. It evolved when eyeball to eyeball, face to face, we could regulate safety together. Let's think about being in small hunter-gathering groups. And the only reason I say that is because we are living in really ancient bodies that evolved in very different circumstances to the ones we live in today. Life and crisis probably had about a 100-kilometer radius. We would fight threats or freeze together. We would also feel safety together, calm, grounded, connected, together. It is these small hunter-gathering groups where this ancient circuitry emerged. And it's great to remind ourselves that this modern world actually represents really unsafe conditions for very ancient circuits in our bodies. It's almost like our modern life has invited those ancient survival mechanisms to go into overdrive. The accelerator is on because our social feeds and the algorithms that dominate them are hacking into parts of our nervous system that flex the accelerator pedal. We slam on the brakes when it's too late because of fatigue and exhaustion and or burnout, and we have very little of the clutch. The clutch is this green mode of safe connection and groundedness. So I built a map. This map has been in development, and this toolkit has been in development for about 6 years now. It's at the center of why things feel fucked just after we unpack and explore the disconnected systems around us. At the bottom of this map is the least amount of energy in our nervous system at any one time. At the top of this map is the most amount of energy in our autonomic nervous system. What we'll notice is that I have split this map into a couple of sections. The first section is the accelerator pedal. This is the sympathetic nervous system. This is our go mode, and this is our flight and fight mode. The parasympathetic nervous system, in its two branches, is at the top and the bottom of this map. This is our brake and our clutch. As we unfold this, we can see that these nervous system states offer us up particular capacities or particular experiences. If I'm above yellow, pure yellow, I'm in the I can't, I'm confused, I'm disconnected, I'm actually disorientated. The reason why these states occur in above the yellow line is because we actually lose access to the front two parts of our brain. If it's under an imaging device, we actually see the neural flow and the blood flow reducing because we're in these activated nervous system states. Now, purple, that is 000. That is call emergency services. The body isn't working. I've only ever probably nudged into purple once in my life in a particularly challenging experience. What we'll notice is that whenever we have connection to green, we're in the I can mode. We're in the I'm clear, I'm orientated, because those neural networks that I described just before are in connection with each other. The reason why we feel connected and orientated is because the vagus nerve, which mediates or manages the green zone, is plumbing the depths between our right-hand hemisphere our heart center, through our diaphragm into our guts to find a way to calm connection. It's a whole body experience. The beautiful part about I'm connected and I'm orientated is that I have more of me online. Where I'm at on this map predicts where you will be on this map. What's fascinating about those small hunter-gatherers is that we evolved a non-verbal capacity to sync up where we are on this map together. The reason why where I'm at on this map predicts where you will be on this map is because that non-verbal ancient architecture called neuroception is actually alive and well today. We find ourselves co-regulating each other into these nervous system states and probably keeping each other into these nervous system states as well. On the right-hand side is a list of emotions that we might name and feel and sense in any one of these pure states. That QR code at the top is a link to downloading the full toolkit on the nervous system map for your use in the days ahead. Quite often when I sit with someone who's feeling incredibly stuck, disconnected, and drenched in fear, this is their life. They wake up in the yellow, they move up into fight and anger and aggression and stress and thrill and hustle. In their office suite, they pop up into an overwhelm, a stuck, a trapped, a shutdown, a shame. An inner voice creeps in to second guess themselves and to speak meanly about themselves inside of them. The imposter syndrome activates, the inner critic inflames itself, probably from these activated zones of the nervous system. I used to do this so well back in the day that I would then crash into blue. I would get a phenomenal head cold. I'd get the office bug, or I would have a trough of despair in my life. And what we've discovered is actually this is a recovery zone. This is a recovery state. This is the only direction we can go metabolically when we actually truly need to recover. It's this ongoing stress-based response that actually the world of work is built on right now. We celebrate people that hustle and burn, and our workplace cultures are damaged because of it. A recent HP study just came out today. Only 14% of people have a great relationship with their work. This is a human crisis. You've seen it in workplaces too, and you've seen it in your own relationship with yourself and probably the relationship with people around you. So how do we navigate this storm that's affecting the majority of us in our white, westernized cultures? We need to find more bandwidth for green. We need to find more of the green zone. Now, this is a map of what up regulates the green zone. Another way of describing that is this is what actually broadens our capacity for more of the green zone. It's the eye gazing of a human face. It is the part of your auditory nerve that actually the spectrum of the frequency of what captures the human voice. It is my vocalizations coming into your auditory nerve. It is our posture. And of course, because this is the vagus nerve, it's also connected to our breath and our digestion. The best way to increase our capacity for green is to have safe relationship. The very thing that the systems of disconnection have unplugged us from. It's the human-to-human connection. It is the face-to-face, the eyeballs to eyeballs, the voice boxes to voice boxes. that we need to nurture and nourish in our life if we are going to navigate the storm that we're in and the storms ahead. So when we look at this, we start to unpack the consequences of force, control, and domination to combat really high levels of chaos, complexity, and change. We need to look towards our nervous system to find an answer on how we move from stuck to free, how we move from being drenched in fear to creating creativity again. It's actually our nervous system up against the world's systems of disconnection. The green zone on the nervous system map is our site of internal connection. It is when our brain, our heart, and our guts, the full spectrum of our neurons, activate and connect. It is the antidote to the things that feel fucked in our bodies and in our lives. All right, so how do we get more of the green zone? I've created a calm model to help us decode some simple hacks to find more of the green zone when a safe human connection isn't as possible. Sometimes when I am really activated in some of these higher zones of the nervous system map, I need to deploy these strategies before I can go and safely connect with another person. So if we can't connect with a safe person face-to-face, even video calls work. As long as we can see their face, hear their voice, and interpret what's happening between two people, we are winning. The second one is we could just tune into our bodies. We could notice where tension is held in our bodies and find ease and slowly move through those two states. This takes practice. That is connect. We can anchor. If we breathe deep and if we elongate our exhale, we actually upregulate the ventral vagal green zone and we downregulate the sympathetic nervous system. Extra bonus points if you start and end in your belly when you breathe. Body scan meditations. How do we notice the body sensations and what it's feeling? How do we get that vagus nerve to connect? We could complete body scan meditations to dial up our body awareness. Our orientation reflex, or the reflex that we evolve to look around us, is incredibly important to downregulating our nervous system when it is jacked up. If we look right to left in the space around us, just like we do when we exit a lift, and we move our cervical spine, we actually downregulate our nervous system so we have more access to the green. You could also look at objects and name them or imagine touching them and imagining their texture. As soon as I start doing it, I start to feel calm actually emerge from the back of my spine. When we can look around and we can orientate, we are flexing ancient survival mechanisms that help us to feel safe. Okay, movement is the last category here. Cool splash of water has been known to downregulate our nervous system. And moving our body in a slower way, bonus points again, if you're out in nature, have been proven to expand the territory of green inside of our bodies. It's this map. We often find ourselves jammed into one pure zone. Quite often when I'm in orange, my loved one will be in orange too with me. A fight will be a fight. When I'm frozen and in fear, we automatically sync up into overwhelm and overload together. That flatness, that empty flatness that happens in the blue zone around shame, disgust, dread, resignation, or at worst, hopelessness, is a co-regulated event. quite often, because we are doing this sync up, we find ourselves in pure states. I lived a lot of my life in pure yellow of concern and caution and fast-paced anxiousness. It's these pure states that actually reduce our ability to safely connect with each other. They invite additional inflammation in our bodies. They lower our immunity. They affect our cortisol and our adrenaline in our bodies. And these pure states need to be mixed up. Now, the beautiful thing is, and I hope you find relief in this, is we don't have to drop the activated states. We get to blend them with the green zone. So when we have increased our capacity for the green zone through those micro practices in the CAR model, or we have been able to open ourselves up to more safe human connection, we actually plumb the plumbing from our neural networks together and we find more capacity for the green zone over time. Some of us might find this in therapy first. The creative zone is when we mix the best parts of the yellow zone with the green zone. This is the most optimal place for a human being to be when they want momentum, energy, activation, and creativity. This is on the right-hand side of creativity, freedom, and momentum and connection in our lives. We can't ignore, though, that anger, healthily held inside of our bodies, is a powerful antidote to systems that hope to disengage us and disconnect us or dominate us. So, green and orange is the assertive zone. This is where anger and choices and advocacy for ourselves and each other emerges in our bodies. But it emerges in a particular way that feels safe, connected, and still open enough to be curious. You'll notice that the green zone, we know we're in there when we are open enough to wonder if we have all the information. We're still angry about what we know, but we have an openness to what we don't yet know. And this is the assertive zone. The sublime zone is the territory of your nervous system where you have had the best sex of your life. It is the green and the red zone. It is flat on our back happy. It is where intimacy and great sex and the sublime is possible. I'll never forget walking up Aroki in New Zealand. The clouds were covering what's known to some in the Western world as Mount Cook. Aroki to the people of New Zealand. And I will never forget when the clouds parted and I could see this monumental mountain in front of me. I was frozen in place. This is the wonder, awe, and sublime zone of our nervous system where we are frozen, but we are safely connected to our experiences. The last mixed zone is, I think, the most underrated human state. It is the state of recovery, of letting go, of regenerating our bodies, recovering from the creative zone, the assertive zone, and the sublime zone, and finding our place and space enough to grieve what we have lost. It is this blending of the green and the blue zones that allows us to grieve, not just to grieve who we have lost through death, but also potentially to grieve the cost of the systems of disconnection on our lives, but most importantly on the people's lives who are furthest away from our privilege. I think about our Indigenous people in our country. I think about our trans brothers and sisters. It's this territory of grief that if we would like to recover and regenerate for the chaos ahead, we need to find space for. We expand on these dual states of the nervous system in Why Things Feel Fucked. There is a whole chapter on exploring these and finding our way to these more often in our lives. It's these states, all connected to the green zone, that actually allow us to move in very creative directions in our lives, where we have all of our nervous system connected and we have more of our neural tissue ready to go. In many ways, when I think about the antidote to force, it is more calm. When I think about control, one of the antidotes, of course, is calm and feeling connected to myself first, so I have the infrastructure in my nervous system to better connect to you. And domination, what would it be like to be curious and open? And how might calm, connected, and curiousness inside of me actually help you to activate that in you? We know that we co-sync up, we co-regulate, we also co-regulate in the green together. So when we pull this together, chaos and complexity and change, calm, connected, curious, our movement from disconnected by forcefulness of the disconnected systems around us to cultivating and curating a system of connection inside of us first. Why Things Feel Fucked unpacks this and helps us to decode 3 roles. These 3 roles are built on the foundation of green with any other zone of the nervous system map. It's these 3 roles that in the central part of the book, we explore, self-explorer, to leverage our calm, connected, and curious nervous system to know ourselves more deeply. To take that self-insight, that self-knowledge, to make better choices in the choice maker. The choice maker is all about our mindset towards growth, learning, and development, but also our capacity to make better creative choices, the types of choices that expand our possibility 5 times, not narrow ourselves down through fear-based decision-making. And then we land in the 3rd role, the co-creator role. How do we leverage our calm, connected, green nervous system with our self-insight, our ability to make great choices, but how do we bring that into our relationships with each other? The co-creator is all about sharing power with each other. It is turning against force, control, and domination in any of its form, and actually empowering us to live collaboratively, creative, but shared, powered lives, where you and I are side by side, forging new choices and new decisions together that make both of us powerful, rather than one of us having to win out. I can't wait for you to get your hands on Why Things Feel Fucked, to explore these 3 roles of self-leadership. From the landscape of self-leadership, we find ourselves in the last part of Why Things Feel Fucked, thinking about systems of connection. I finished the book wondering out loud, if we could ground and regulate our nervous systems, if we could orientate ourselves inside of the unsafe systems of disconnection, if we could lead ourselves in a different way through self-leadership, how could we create safe harbors of connection in a chaotic world? The last part of the book is about systems of support first, to really solidify our self-leadership. And then the last chapter of the book was written for me too. How do we take the internal system of connection that we have built in our bodies and in our relationships to the bigger and broader systems of the world? And this, I hope, is a blueprint for belonging. I hope that what I've been able to offer us all in this last chapter is the capacity to take our calm, connected curiousness out and encode it in the ways we show up with other humans, whether that be in our friendship groups, our families, our workplaces, or our communities, however local or global they are. We have just been on such a journey. From the systems of disconnection all the way through to my T's of the systems of connection. The heart of this is our nervous system's disconnection or connection from its parts. Have we got the capacity to merge the green zone with any other zone to make something else fundamentally different possible? Not just in the relationship with ourselves, but really, truly in our relationship with each other. I wrote Why Things Feel Fucked because I was a bit sick of self-help books. On one hand, they were really light and thin and may not have supported people with a roadmap towards transformation. On the other hand, some self-help books find their way to being quite dense, inaccessible, or laden with science. I tried to ride a middle path here between the temporary nature of some self-help books and the inaccessibility of others. And I've tried to get the balance right. This is a practical roadmap to why things feel fucked first. And then really, how do we unfuck them for ourselves first and then alongside each other? The nervous system map is there. There's abundant tools around how to activate calm. There is ideas around how to build a better relationship with ourselves and each other. And as I mentioned just before, there is a blueprint for belonging, a manifesto of how do we take this to the world and the systems around us. So I'm wondering, as we finish, what's one thing you want to take more time to think about or feel through? What's that one puzzle piece that you have now picked up from this conversation that you would like to ponder? And if you could activate one thing tomorrow, if you could put something into practice tomorrow that feels right, what would it be? What's one thing you would start? What's one thing you would continue, double down on, make more present, more possible? And what's one thing you would absolutely stop? What would you put an end to? Your absolute generosity and presence in this conversation does not go missed by me. Your connection to this book, your advocacy of this book where it's needed the most is cherished, supported by me, and encouraged. You can follow more of the content that I'm creating in the days and the weeks and the months ahead at hello@_Andrew Sloan on Instagram. You can pre-order the book via this QR code. You can find a myriad of retailers that are sitting there waiting to take your order. Next week, on the 18th of November, it will also be available globally. It's available globally right now on Kindle, but it will also be available globally on paperback from the 18th as well. Here in Australia, you can pre-order the paperback right now. It will be delivered and shipped after the 18th. I thank you for showing up to be a part of the journey and the picture of us creating a better world, one grounded nervous system at a time. Thank you for being here. The recording will be sent after this webinar has been finished. And I thank you and I thank you and thank you for being a part of the conversation on Instagram. Can't wait to see you there. Bye for now.